Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a puzzle. That is when air traffic controls you and asks you to keep your speed up on final. Now, one of the interesting things that's happened to me a few times now, since I've been flying in the real world, is I've said request landing or whatever. They call me back and say, yes, there's 6 people behind you and we're going to try to get you in front. So please keep your speed up on landing, on approach. So the problem with that, of course, is many things. First of all, what does that mean to keep your speed up? Second of all, how do we manage the transition from whatever speed we've achieved to the speed we need to actually get the plane on the ground? Now, this is one of those problems that's easier said than it is practice. It's just one of those things you probably didn't do very much of when you're doing your flight training or just in general. Keep in mind, if you're in a big jet, you have other tools like speed brakes and stuff. But you can see right off our nose right now, at about 12:15 there, we have our little airport we're going to be landing on. That's Hartford. And we're doing 140 knots. Air traffic control has advised us to keep our speed up on final because there's basically people straight ahead who are going to be turning into us. So for us, that basically means how do we keep our speed up? Well, first of all, we can keep our throttle in. What is that speed going to be? Generally, it's going to be somewhere above 100 knots. We're not going to do too much less than 100 knots. But the real challenge for all of that is, regardless of what speed you pick, is slowing down. So when people, of course, they kind of get themselves all lined up. They've been keeping their speed up. You can see we're doing $1.50 right now. You can see we're at 2 white lights. We push the nose over. We go ahead and pull the throttle all the way back to 0, and we start our descent. Now, if you notice, looking over there on the right, we've got several problems. First of all, we're too fast to put our landing gear down. Second of all, we are too fast to put our flaps down. And of course, you're sitting here saying, well, you're probably going to get it at the last second. You have plenty of room to go ahead and slow down. No, you have no chance in the universe to be able to go ahead and slow down. And as you can hear by that very angry beeping noise, it's demanding that I put my gear down. So if I were to go ahead and slap my gear down now, which is basically at the limit of the doors, by the way, you can see I'm still coming in at 130 knots here. It's 126. Am I keeping my speed up? Yeah, I am. Let's go ahead and pop those flaps in now. You can see I'm going to have to put my flaps all the way down immediately. Again, I'm still basically in glide path here. I'm still doing 100 knots. I'm still moving pretty fast. My flaps are starting to catch up to me. We're starting to get a little bit closer to the ground here. I have to actually start bringing in a little bit of power so we don't stall out before we hit the end of the runway. And the whole time was this kind of very, very challenging, not very stabilized approach. Did we absolutely execute the world's best drop from 150 to get us back on the ground right where we're supposed to land properly? Yes, I believe that was actually one for the record books there. But that was a big mess. You can see there that even though we kept our speed up the entire time, there was a lot of chance there that we could have, a single burst of turbulence could have been the end of our journey there. So that was not very safe, really, is the biggest thing. So how do we deal with that in such a way we're not going to have to worry about trying to get all that perfect at the last second? The trick, of course, is to slow down before you start your descent. So let's say we will need to keep our speed up in our pattern here. They say go ahead and reduce speed and make your landing here. Keep your speed up. You got yourself, we're doing $1.25. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill the throttle, pull my nose up, drop my flaps, drop my gear, and then nose the plane over. Now, the advantage to that particular little twist there is the fact that now the aircraft is completely under control, and I have plenty of time to stabilize my approach. As I'm looking out this window, I can see we've got a couple problems. First of all, we have a crosswind coming from my right wing there. The other issue, of course, is that we're a little high. But the nice thing is, because I dirtied and slowed the plane up from my cruise speed before I started my descent, I had plenty of time to get all this established. So you can see now I'm right on glide path there. I'm just going to go ahead and initiate a little bit of a forward slip. And now everything is nice and stable. I've got myself doing about 95, which is a little quick, but that's perfectly fine. I'm not bouncing all over the place. I'm not having to make any configuration changes. Everything is absolutely ready to go. Now, for those of you who are instrument folks, you'll realize how insanely important it is to have a very stabilized approach before I even begin this process. If I were to try to keep my 150 knots right up until the last point when I cross my final approach fix, you'd be asking for a very, very treacherous descent because you'd be constantly battling with all those lines trying to center those suckers. Yep, I recognize that turbulence there. We're a little high, so I'm just going to cut the power here, and we're going to glide on in. You can realize how dangerous that would have been had you tried to do it any other way. Ooh, a little bit of a float there, but that's okay. We're just going to glide us down. I'm going to go ahead and put my right aileron into that wind there. There it is. Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. So as you can see, when they ask you to keep your speed up, the key thing is you generally want to be over 100 knots. Obviously, if you're jet, keeping your speed up usually means they'll call it make best speed, which is going to be closer to 205 knots-ish, kind of in that zone. For us in general aviation land, there's very few general aviation planes that go, much faster in the pattern than 100 other than some twin engine. So that's a good place to aim for. In our case, we just did 150 and got on the grounds about a minute and a quarter later, just to give you an idea of how controlled and how easy that experience is. Big thing is, though, slow down before you push that nose over. Otherwise, gravity is going to make things very interesting for you. Enjoy.